before moving on to the next session, I would like to show you how TILOS manages accounts and resources. The accounts and resources can be found in the TILOS Explorer on the left hand side of your screen. So by clicking on the scroll bar and dragging it downwards, and by clicking the plus symbol next to resources and accounts, and double clicking the account field. And as you can see here in the middle of your screen, the TILOS library contains a list of cost centres with which you can split the project costs into separate accounts, and the list of accounts can be tuned, i.e. customised to meet the specific project needs. Let's now go back to the TILOS Explorer to the resources section, and again double click on the resources field. As you can see in the top middle of your screen, the TILOS lists the resources in a hierarchical manner. Different types of resources can be created. Different models, different calculation models can also be stored here. TILOS can actually calculate what resources are required across a total project, as long as these jobs and resources move basically from one job to another inside the actual project. TILOS is also capable of taking complex resources into consideration, i.e. a mixture of resources. If we, for example, click on the plus symbol next to machines, we can see here that we have a number of tasks which also include operators. In this specific case, TILOS takes equipment and an operator, but also things like gasoline and diesel into consideration too. And all these resources that are stored here in a hierarchical manner have one specific thing in common. They can be assigned to any tasks and activities in the main working area of your plan. And this is something that I'm going to show you how to do next: assign resources to tasks. In order to assign resources to tasks, we must return to our time distance view. So by moving to the scroll bar and dragging it upwards to the time distance view, please double click, and in the main working area select the topsoil stripping task. From the previous session, we learned that it is possible to estimate the duration of a task to be carried out without resources solely on the basis of quantity and work rate. So if we move on to the calculation view tab in the details toolbar, we can see that in this specific case it was 240 square meters per hour which had to be achieved. We now want to move along to the resources view tab along here in the details toolbar, and by clicking this we have the opportunity to add resources and select resources for a specific task by clicking on the plus symbol assign resources icon. Once you have clicked on the plus symbol icon, the most important question you have to ask yourself now is, what resources do I require to get my job done? So in this specific example, let's click on the plus sign next to the labour section, and for example let us choose the assistant by ticking in the box, and for example an operator. And we will then choose from the machines section by clicking again on the plus symbol. We will then choose a caterpillar. After we have done so, we will then proceed to the bottom of the screen, and by clicking on OK, we will have successfully assigned these resources to the task in hand. If we take a closer look at the details toolbar at the bottom of our screen, we can see that the calculation model that I have applied is the allocation model. Now, this calculation formula is basically the easiest and simplest way to calculate costs based on the input value shown here and the effort shown here. And last but not least, I will just move the scroll bar along the bottom slightly to improve the visibility and the unit cost. This means that by changing the input value, for example, to 4 as opposed to 1, and by hitting return, please look at the column cost on your far right hand side, and you will see that by entering the input value 4, that my costs have quadrupled to 18,900 euros. TILOS also enables you to handle direct cost assignments without resources by clicking on the euro and dollar symbol in the details toolbar. We can then select an account structure from the list above simply by ticking one of the boxes. In this specific case, we will choose the income field for this specific example, and by confirming this by pressing OK, we can now see that the income has been added to our list in the Resources View tab in the Details toolbar. It is worth mentioning here that direct cost can be assigned as a fixed value, for example, 10,000 euros for the entire task, or based on time, i.e. 500 euros per day, or based on the task quantity. However, in this specific example, we are going to change the input value to 1, and by taking the scroll bar and dragging it along slightly until we reach the unit cost column. If we insert, for example, by double clicking this field in the input value 0.5, and by confirming this by clicking on OK, if we then click on the calculation view tab in the details toolbar, we can now see on the right hand side that the cost is 17,550 euros at a unit cost of 0.54 euros or 54 cents, and below we have our fixed income of 16,200 euros at a unit price of 50 cents. Now, the question we need to ask ourselves here is that what do we need to do to optimize our income, i.e. what do we need to do to earn money as opposed to losing money. So if we go to the planned work rate field and change this to 300 square meters per hour and hitting the return button, we can now see that we have a different cost structure. Our income remains the same. However, instead of losing money, as we were a moment ago, 1,350 euros to be exact, we are now making money based on this calculation model. By clicking on the soil removal task, I would now like to show you how other resources are assigned to tasks and how complex they can be sometimes. If we move on to the details toolbar at the bottom, if we click on the resources view tab, then we can see that resources have already been assigned to this specific task. Why is this so? Well, it's basically because when we inserted the task initially, it was based on a predefined template, and it already had resources assigned to it. If we then go into a little bit more detail by clicking on the excavator and then clicking on the truck, we can see that with the excavator, it is a complex resource as it itself, the excavator and the operator are both assigned per hour to this task. The truck is calculated, as you can see here, by unit and time. This means how many units can the truck carry away, again also per hour. So now let's change some of the information to give you a brief insight into how this all combines with one another. If we change, for example, the input value to say 120 cubic meters as opposed to 160, we can see after we hit the return button that we only require 3 trucks now. Beforehand it was 4. I'll just change it back to the 160, and you can see that due to the increased amount of cubic meters, we will then require 1 truck more, in this case 4. And I'm sure you've noticed that the plan in the main working area has also been updated accordingly. If we move back down to say the excavator, and if we, for example, want to change the number of excavators to 2 as opposed to the allocated 1, again insert the number 2 and hitting the return button, we can see now that we require a total of 8 trucks, including the driver, i.e. the operator, and again we can see that in the main working area above, TILOS has graphically updated the working schedule. Before we proceed to the next part of our tutorial, let's change the data in the resources column allocation of the details toolbar back to its initial state to update the working plan accordingly. The next phase of our online tutorial is about how TILOS displays resource data. Resource data can be displayed as a diagram or diagrams along the time or the distance axis. And inside our sample project, on the left-hand side in the TILOS Explorer, there is another view defined which contains resource data. And by double-clicking on this view, we can see that the distance scale on the main time distance view has changed in order to show the diagrams on the right hand side. I will just move my mouse over just to show you the area that I am referring to. The first chart shows the usage of selected resources in the project, and each separate colour stands for an allocation, as this enables the display of numerous resources in a cramped and limited space environment. Moving on to the second diagram. The second diagram highlights the cost per week in red, as you can see here, and the income is coloured green. The third diagram on my far right hand side shows the sum of total values, and this diagram can also be changed to show the difference between cost and income. Before I proceed to show you the difference between cost and income, I'm just going to increase the view of the page slightly. So if I click on the main toolbar and select 125%, I think generally for this purpose this definitely is more visibly and graphically appealing. By clicking the diagram, or the histogram as we call them in TILOS, in the details toolbar, clicking on the Define Histogram View tab and then selecting Display Settings, I can then click, or I can tick the box next to Stacking and Grouping. By confirming OK, I can now see that during the first weeks of our project that we have taken in more money, we have had more income in green than we have incurred cost displayed in red. project that we have been working on during this session can also be displayed in a number of graphical styles. If I go to the TILOS Explorer and click on Gantt View Default, this default view chart displays the entire project as a Gantt chart. And Gantt charts, however, can be flexibly defined by setting filters and grouping stations also. By proceeding to grouped by type of work, if I click on this, then I can see that the view that I'm given here shows a summary for each different task, followed by the planning tasks, as you can see here under the bar line titles. Now, these summaries, they can actually be switched off, so basically by clicking on the minus symbol, we can see that all the tasks belonging to the same group can be displayed in one bar line. And last but not least, if we click on grouped by resources, we can see here that we can display the assigned resources as a Gantt chart in order to identify where a resource has been assigned to. So for example, if we look at the assistant as a resource, we can see that he has been assigned to a number of tasks, i.e. activities.